Hi, Specs here from the channel bexbugoutsurvivor, and welcome back to part 2 of modifying your own Bergens, and today we're looking at the triple pouch. So you're only going to get 2 pouches across the front if you use anything that has a backing like this. These type of pouches are wider. The DPM Bergen is a long back, which makes it narrower, and the MTP Bergen is a short back, which is wider. Hence, if you use the smaller utility pouches rather than this one here, which I've shown you, we're going to be able to get 3 on. First, this canteen pocket needs to be removed at the seam, and I can use a seam ripper or perhaps even a razor blade. It all can be stitched by hand with ordinary sewing needles, and I did promise you last time that I would show you some of my sewing awls to put pouches on, but in this instance it's not required. These are the small utility pouches. These are what you're looking out for. So that is how you're going to know if you're going to get 2 or 3 pouches on. First, the size of your Bergen, whether it's a long back or short back, and the type of pouches you have, whether it's molly, which you're going to need, or this type here. Another option for the DPM would be to have 2 stacked. Possibly these loops either side of the canteen may need to be removed, but we're going to play that by ear. The first utility I put on was this here, and I just used an ordinary polyester thread, and it can keep snapping on you if you put too much tension on. It was doable, but it was a bit of a pig. The second one I put on, and for that I used a much thicker thread. This thread here is waxed. Knowing what I do now, having already done a pouch with the wax thread, I would have done all the pouches with the wax thread. When you pull on the thread, there's a bit stretch to it, so a little goes a long way. It doesn't snap when you pull in the needle through. So yeah, I would have used the wax thread all the way through. Last time we did a pouch, we used the back stitch, and I've shown you the blanket stitch as well. Today we're going to use a saddle stitch, and the first job is to remove the existing canteen pouch. Okay, to start taking the existing canteen pocket off, I have a seam ripper and double edge razor blades. Once I've lifted up just a section of this, I can get a razor blade in. There's also going to be components I can salvage, such as the zip, and even keep some of the material to make patches, and I think there's a bit of Velcro on it as well. So I have an area unpicked that I can get my finger in. I find it a lot easier with a razor than I do a seam ripper. All the stitching has been removed, and I can remove the pouch. And it just remains to clean up a few loose threads. So these are the utility pouches I'm going to use. Turn it over. All the gubbins here need to come off. All these buttons here, all the straps, these bits, nothing I can do about the poppers, have to leave them on, and I'm even going to remove this strap here, although not necessary. Again, it comes in handy for other projects. That for me is ready to be sewn on, and I'll be sewing this on using the saddle stitch. going to put 2 needles on the same thread to do the saddle stitch. The cord I'm going to use is waxed. If I rub the wax cord like that, you can see it is stiff as a board. I'm going to show you how to load any needle quite simply without the need to poke it through like this, which doesn't always work. Let's get it in our fingers just so there's a little sticking out. You can do this with any thread and introduce a needle onto it and pull through. To lock it off, now I've threaded it, I want the point of the needle to come right through in the middle of the thread and bring that thread down and over the eye and give it a pull, and that is tight. I can trim up the tail in a minute, drop the needle, come to the other end and do exactly the same. So that's gone through the second time, bring them over the eye. Let's tighten everything up. So I've set up the needle and thread. So there's the thread with a needle on each end, and we're going to start with the DPM. And I want to position where these are going because I want to leave room for the lid to open. I come under this webbing that holds the lid to the Bergen on. I want it right to the very edge, this pouch of the daisy chain. Apologies for the background noise there, got the dryers on. Okay, I'm going to start from this point here, which is the lid for the pouch. I'm going to start here, work my way down to the bottom. On my MTP Bergen, I had a nightmare coming through this bottom section. It's very thick, so I might have to use an awl to get through that. The rest of it should be just saddle stitch, which is a great stitch if it is visible, which this is, and the saddle stitch will go all the way around the top and maybe all the way down the other side, although a back stitch here would work just fine. First stitch going in now, just where that lid is. I'm going to give it a little twist till it comes back out onto the pouch. Put my hand out the way, pull this needle through, and I grab the other needle because I need to find the halfway point and pull both needles together. I could put tacking stitches in, but I'm just going for it. Get one of the needles, I think I'll choose this one, and go through at the lower point. One there, one through here, and I notice where you stitch into determines how hard it is to push a needle through on the pouch. If you can just get the edge by a few mil, it makes it a lot easier. So that was the left needle. I come to the right hand side needle and it's going through the identical hole this has just come out of on the left. Just pull that tight, I can find the exact stitch, pull it through and pull tight now on both parts. Check that I'm still in position with the pouch, and I am, so I can continue down here. I'm going left needle first because I already have some stitching from the Bergen here as a guide, so I can count how many stitches to come over to give it a more uniformed look. Left through, pull that, get the right hand needle. Let's try and get through the exact same holes, or near enough. There's that through, yeah, the exact same holes. Now I'm going to actually reverse mine at this point and go back up and then come back down just to secure it, because the lid is going to take some of the worst wear and tear. Give it a pull and work my way down. Once you get going on this, it goes quite quick. This kind of stitch is really neat. It could be passed off as sewing machine neat if you keep them stitches nice and small. I'm doing mine 2 of the Bergen stitches, so I'm guessing mine are about 4mm, with theirs being 2mm. So I can follow a good guideline and have pretty neat stitches here. So these are quite uniform stitches, very neat, about 2 or 3mm I should imagine. But up here, if we follow it up, I kind of started off with the stitches too big. Look at that in comparison to them, which are a lot neater. These just looks like a dog's scrotum. You notice one of my stitches is about 2 or 3 of the Bergen size stitches. That's good enough for me. It also looks really well on the front here. I just don't like these here, the big stitches. That looks like a child has done it. Well, there we are, all completed with the long back DPM, having the 2 pouches on short back MTP with 3. Chuffed to bits with them. I've also got plenty of salvage with the zips, quite sturdy webbing and velcro. Let's look at the pouches close up. The side of this was put on with a saddle stitch. It can almost be mistaken for a machine stitch. The best way to sew these on are your side ones on first, then your middle one. At the bottom at the back, material was really tough. Had to get the sewing all onto that. The colour of the stitch shows through more here using the wax thread. Can hardly be noticed on the MTP. Let's look at the possibilities of what you can hold in utility pouches on the front of your Bergens. Start with the DPM here, the larger ones, and in here I can get my water bottles, and in here I have the cooking cup, the 58 pat, and in this one the possibility to carry 2 litres and the plastic beaker. Moving on to the MTP, let's have a look at some possibilities here. Perhaps a cook system like jet boil would be handy there. Again, these are just possibilities. Obviously I wouldn't have this very thing in here, but I just want to show you the kind of space you have. This is issue. with a hexi burner in. This is why these are only possibilities. I wouldn't need that if I had that. And in here, the best part of the British Army ration pack. Perhaps I could switch it up a little. Have my water in one. I'll definitely need a cook set in the other. I could choose. And definitely some rations, maybe the canteen set. Fits nice in the wider style pouches, and of course always need water, so I'd probably avoid putting the water in the back pouches because the weight of it will pull backwards, but the option is there to do it. But I have other plans for other pouches on that pack there for the water. That just remains for this area here, and that is where the basher goes. So part 3, basher pouches. We'll see if we can do both of these. Really pleased the way these came out. So until part 3, when we do that, I'll see you next time.